Hello, this is My Sweet Mess, and welcome to my kitchen, where every week I make a mess trying new recipes in the pursuit of something sweet. This week I am excited to try a new to me recipe for carrot cake cupcakes with brown sugar cream cheese frosting from Allison at Celebrating Sweets, and I'll leave a link to the original recipe in the show notes below. I am so excited to try these fluffy, spiced carrot cake cupcakes with a rich brown sugar cream cheese frosting. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss any future bakes, and let's jump right into the recipe. To begin, let's get started with our mise en place. Mise en place is a French term for putting in place or everything in its place. It's the process of preparing your tools and ingredients before you get started with your bake. For this recipe, we have two elements, the cupcake and the frosting. For the cupcake, we need all-purpose flour, baking soda, baking powder, cinnamon, and salt. We also need vegetable oil, unsweetened applesauce, brown sugar, granulated sugar, eggs, vanilla, and grated carrots. For the frosting, we need cream cheese softened to room temperature, unsalted butter softened to room temperature, brown sugar, molasses, vanilla extract, and powdered sugar. Now, if you don't like molasses, you can totally omit that ingredient. I think it'll add a richness to the frosting, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. Now that all of my ingredients are prepared, let's prep our equipment. For this recipe, we will go ahead and preheat our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. We will need either an electric hand mixer or a stand mixer fitted with the paddle attachment. We will also need a 12-count muffin tin lined with paper liners. These cupcakes are going to a family event, so I went ahead and did some fun and colorful paper liners, but whatever you have on hand is absolutely fine. We will also need a medium and large size bowl, a whisk, a spatula, a disher. This is a 1.5 ounce or 3 tablespoon disher. This is the largest one I have, and this is what will be used to dish the cupcake batter into the liner. And finally, we will need a piping bag fitted with the star tip. Piping your frosting is absolutely optional. If you just want to use a knife to spread the frosting on top of your cupcake or cut the corner off a Ziploc bag, that is totally fine. I have the piping bag and a star tip, so I'm going to go ahead and use it. Now that all of our ingredients are measured out and the equipment is prepped, let's get started with our bake. We will begin by making our cupcakes. So into our medium-sized bowl, we will combine our dry ingredients. So into this bowl goes the flour, baking soda, baking powder, cinnamon, and salt. And I'm just going to give that a little whisk just to bring everything together. And once that looks pretty good, I'm just going to set it aside for later. Next, into our large bowl, we will combine the oil, applesauce, brown sugar, granulated sugar, eggs, and vanilla extract. And just using our spatula, I will bring everything together. What I'm trying to do as I'm stirring is I noticed that some of my brown sugar clumped up a little bit as it got hydrated. So I'm just taking sort of the back of my spatula and smashing it against the bowl just to help break up some of those larger pieces. That looks pretty good to me. So let's bring back our bowl of the dry ingredients and add our dry ingredients into our big bowl. And I will just stir these together until everything is just combined. And that looks pretty good to me, nicely combined. So let's go ahead and add in our last ingredients for the cupcakes, our grated carrots. Bring this together carefully, trying not to overmix, but still making sure that our finely grated carrots are nicely distributed. So now that our batter is ready to go, we will grab our disher here, and we've got our previously prepared lined 12-cup muffin tin. And I'm just going to use this disher to evenly divide the dough amongst the 12 wells. I really like this recipe. I'm very impressed with how quickly everything came together. I know part of that is just the benefit of the mise en place stage where everything is prepped, but I think this also is a nice, simple recipe, easy to follow, and I appreciate that. And just like that, all of the cupcake wells are filled. So I'm gonna pop these guys into our preheated 350-degree oven for about 18 to 20 minutes. Now, from what I was reading about this recipe, these cupcakes do not have a high rise. They're basically going to just rise up and be level with the top of the liner. So it's a little bit tricky to determine when these cupcakes are done. So how we're gonna test it is actually use a toothpick and insert it into the center of the cupcake. Once the toothpick comes out clean, then we know that these cupcakes are fully cooked. So I will be back once the cupcakes are fully cooked. These guys are done. I have inserted a toothpick into the cupcakes and it has come out clean. So what I'm gonna do is let these hang out in the pan for about 10 minutes, and then I'll pop them on a wire rack or directly on my countertop to cool. And then once my cupcakes have cooled completely, I will come back. But before I leave, I have to apologize for something I said before, which was incorrect. These guys have definitely puffed up. I know there's not a whole lot of leavening agent in the cupcake batter, and yet these guys still look nice and delicious and fluffy to me. So disregard what I said before. As a reminder, I am still learning as I go here, so I do apologize, but these guys look wonderful. And I'm back. My cupcakes are completely cooled. They're hanging out right behind me. So now it's time to make the frosting. Using either an electric hand mixer or a stand mixer fitted with a paddle attachment, we will place our room temperature butter, our room temperature cream cheese, the brown sugar, and the molasses, which is optional, into the bowl of our stand mixer. Now that everything is in the bowl, we're going to beat this mixture for about 1 to 2 minutes on medium speed. And I'm going to make sure to stop and scrape the bottom and the sides of the bowl a couple of times throughout that 1 to 2 minute time period. While this is mixing, I do want to call out, make sure that you are using room temperature cream cheese and butter. Do not speed up the process by microwaving the cream cheese or microwaving the butter. It'll make them too soft, which will result in a runny frosting that will require a lot more powdered sugar. So my mixture is starting to look really good. So what I'm gonna do is actually just let it hang out in the bowl for a few minutes. This should give the brown sugar some time to absorb the wet ingredients, which should help to avoid grittiness in the frosting. So I'm just gonna let this hang out just like this for about 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll come back and finish up the frosting and get to decorating. Now that the brown sugar has had a chance to absorb into the wet ingredients, we can go ahead and add in the powdered sugar and the vanilla and beat the frosting until it's nice, smooth, and creamy. And I'm gonna give that a few turns with the spatula here just to avoid the powdered sugar splashing out everywhere. Let's give it one final scrape here and take a look at the consistency. I think that looks really nice. It's very spreadable. You can kind of see how it just sticks together. That's exactly what we want. If you want to add more powdered sugar for a thicker frosting, you absolutely can. I think that this looks pretty good. So what I'm gonna do is turn this back on and crank it up to high speed for 1 full minute. So now that my frosting is prepared, let's grab our previously prepared piping bag and fill it up. I will flip the tip of my piping bag up, put it into the cup, and then flip the sides over the top of the cup. Maybe. I don't know if you can see it here, but the tip of the piping bag is pointed up, and that's so that as I fill the piping bag, the frosting isn't spilling out into the bottom of the cup. One of the biggest challenges that I personally have with piping frosting, it actually has nothing to do with the frosting and 100% to do with me. I am a piping bag overfiller. Something that saves me from myself is this little edge. By folding over the edge of the piping bag, I'm at least guaranteeing some space at the top of the bag where there's not going to be frosting. So my piping bag is filled. I have some extra frosting. I'm just going to set that aside for later. And let's get to piping our cupcakes. Now we will pipe the frosting on each of the cupcakes. So come on in close, and I'm just going to start from the outside edge here and pipe a circle. Now, if you do not have a piping bag or piping tips, that is absolutely fine. Just using a knife and getting that frosting on top of the cupcakes, that's the goal. The good thing about working with frosting that's a little bit softer is it's a lot easier to pipe with. So this is actually a great recipe if you've never really piped a cupcake before, because the frosting is so easy to work with. So now that my cupcakes are fully decorated, I'm actually going to pop them in the fridge so that the frosting can firm up a bit and it'll help hold its shape. So I will be back once my cupcakes have had a chance to chill in the fridge. And look at this, aren't these cute? It's been about 10 minutes and I let these guys hang out in the fridge and firm up quite a bit, and I could not be more pleased with how they've turned out. That frosting is set up really nicely on top of the cupcakes. I think that they look so fun and festive. I cannot wait to share these with my friends and family. But first, let's give these guys a taste. Wow, these are wonderful. They are so fluffy and moist. I love that when you bite into this cupcake, it is unmistakably carrot cake, but that frosting really adds a little something that truly makes it a twist on a classic carrot cake. That addition of the brown sugar really helps bring this up to another level. If you have someone in your life that likes desserts but doesn't love anything that's overly sweet, I think that this carrot cake cupcake with brown sugar cream cheese frosting is just for them. I'm off to bring these guys to my family potluck, but first I got to find a cup of coffee to go with my cupcake. Thank you so much for being with me here today. And remember, trying new things is messy, but the end result can be pretty sweet. Have a great rest of your day. Bye now.